Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for another Pivot Artist interview. It's been a little break, and we're excited to be back today with Dwayne Manuel, or Dueno Insano. He's an awesome artist, and we're just excited to talk to him.
Hello. Hey, what's up? What's cracking?
Cool.
How's
We're
everybody
we're
doing?
hanging.
Right on. I'm
I'm
glad to be
tired,
here.
but I'm really excited to be here. Yeah.
Yeah, right on.
Let me jump into questions. How did you first join the Pivot show?
So the way I joined Pivot is through Dwayne Koya Weena. I think that's how you say his last name. We were following each other's work for a few years now, and he started to he started to go into more like putting shows together, and then he pitched this idea that they were going to do the Pivot exhibition in Flagstaff, and I think previously he saw a few boards that I painted before, because before the show I painted probably like several skateboards, just to paint them, and I never showed them anywhere really other than social media. But I think he took note of it and then asked me, once he got everything together for Pivot, to jump aboard. And so I did. I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty cool. A bunch of Native American artists who are doing paintings and drawings on skateboards. I was totally with it. So that's pretty much how I got on board with the Pivot exhibition, was through Dwayne, the organizer or co-organizer, I believe.
I'm gonna mess up our question order just to follow up and have this be more conversational. But it's been curious, or I've been curious. We've talked to a lot of people other artists in the show who never painted on skateboards before, and then a bunch who have painted on skateboards before. And it might be a dumb question, but we get a lot of people visiting our gallery who are like, why skateboards? So maybe, since you did work on skateboards before, maybe just can you elaborate more on why you'd chosen skateboards to use in the past?
Yeah, for in my experiences, it's just an alternative to canvas painting, because
Mhm.
with my experience, my brothers and like my friends, they were all skateboarders back in the day, and that's kind of who I came up with. And they'd always have leftover skateboards around, stuff, even skateboards that are broken or skateboards that they didn't use anymore. And so, like, me and my friends, like during graffiti, my friends started just painting on them. And so after that, we kind of noticed that there was more skateboard deck art out there, and then it kind of gradually developed through there. So that's kind of how I got introduced to skateboard painting, was just through my friends and family who were skateboarders at the time, and then having that kind of that leftover, those leftover skateboards laying around, and just having it's just an alternative to canvas painting. We didn't always have canvas or anything to paint on, so we use the skateboards. And after that, you look for the blank decks,
Mhm.
because you want more of a cleaner, smoother surface. But that's a lot of my friends still paint on just used skate decks, so it has all kinds of texture, and because the skate decks are all beat up and stuff like that. It has a real
Yeah.
cool effect, I think, when you paint on rough surfaces like that. So I think that's pretty much how I got introduced to skateboard painting.
Cool.
Well, your
Yeah.
style certainly really fits for skateboard decks, I think. And it's funny you mentioned just like finding things, because Abel Nash talked a bit about painting on different kinds of materials that he could find. And then the texture is an interesting point. Like folks who've come to see the exhibit, or folks who will come to see the exhibit, Dwayne Koyoena, he did do a board on a used deck, and it's got a bear on it, and the deck is all torn up, but it looks amazing. They really go together. So you have some inspiration there, I guess.
Yeah. I think it makes it for a much more maybe exciting painting
Mhm.
in some. But yeah, I think because there's definitely some painters out there who really like that, like, textured surface to paint on.
Yeah.
And I think it's a challenge too for some artists too, who are used to just that smooth surface. They should try out a more textured, rough surface, just to see what kind of effects you get, because you might like it.
Yeah. So I'll ask the next question, which is basically, we've been asking everyone, Dwayne and Landis have a definition or a thought about what pivot means to them in the context of this exhibit, and it's about going between different worlds and different responsibilities. What does pivot mean to you? Or maybe we're just quizzing you now.
Yeah, no worries. I was thinking about that question actually yesterday. So to me, pivot is like, it's like an action used to adjust your balance or your movement when you're to successfully, continue on a chosen path. So I think with both skateboarding and art making, I think it's an important part of the process where you make a decision and then you act on that decision, and then you kind of balance yourself, on that decision. So I think with both skateboarding and art making, that's kind of a part of the process that I think is very important, because not only do you not stay in one place, but you continue moving on a path that you really don't know where you're going, but it's you're taking that risk, and then you're adjusting yourself and adapting to the situation. So I think with both art making and skateboarding, that's very important, and that's what pivot means to me. And in the context of the actual exhibition, I think pivot is very I think it's a great idea. You're getting all these Native American skate decks to painted skate decks together and showing them in one place. It's the skateboard painting is I think it's a pretty much an artistic tradition that's been going on for a long time. Like I said, once we started doing the skateboard art, I noticed that other artists are doing it too, and doing it way before I was. And then looking back at the history of like the punk scene and the skater scene, there was all kinds of this cool artwork that were happening on skate decks. And so I think the pivot exhibition is a good way to kind of put when I say I'm talking about Native American artists, put in their 2 cents and show the world that we have skills too, and we are creative as well.
Yeah, I like that one. I think a lot of people, again, that we've talked to, it's interesting to hear everybody's different definition of pivot, because I think a lot of people visiting the gallery want to hear everyone's opinion on it. And it's fun too that now that we're open and have a gallery space that people can actually come and visit and like view and then build their own opinions on what pivot is, hearing from the audience side too, all of the things that like visitors bring to the table for what pivot is too, I think makes like a really fun discourse and conversation that we can have. So beyond being a really awesome way of presenting skateboard deck arts, like you said, having that stamp of this is how a bunch of different Native American artists are able to present that in a museum space is really cool. And Liz and I talk about this a lot. It's very different than what we've been able to put on exhibit in the past. And I think it really sets the stage for what we'll be able to do in the future as far as exhibits go, and having these relationships and having so much like artist voice from living artists that, can like really kind of meld what this meaning is. So that's cool to hear.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, like I said, it's an ongoing tradition, and it's been done like tons of times before. But this is really the first time I've seen it, personally, having a whole group of these Native Americans who are from different tribes being put together in one space, doing one, having one. Well, they have many things in common, but it's that part hasn't been done before in my perspective. I haven't seen like this kind of organization of these tribes all together.
Well, and when you talked about like punk and skateboards kind of being, it talks about like counterculture. So in a way, it's also like disrupting normal perceptions of like what contemporary Native art is. So it's cool. I love all of the different ways that we can take pivot, and again, just hearing what everybody has to say about it is really, it makes a more full show. So, moving on to our next interview question. How did you first get into art?
Well, that's kind of a long story, but it pretty much happened since I was, well, one of my earliest memories is like drawing. As a kid, I think everybody kind of drew when they were little, but I kind of kept it going, and it was something I always had to do for some reason. So when as coming up as a little guy, I was drawing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, dinosaurs, skulls, and demons and things like that. But then I think it wasn't until maybe graduating high school where I had to make a decision in my life for what I was going to do next. And so I was already drawing constantly at the time, and I was very comfortable at drawing. But then, making that decision about what's going to happen next was something I took seriously. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't, but I took it seriously, and I thought, okay, so what am I going to do? So, I had nothing else better to do, so I decided just to kind of take that risk and go to school for art. And so I took a couple of college level art classes at the Scottsdale Community College here in Arizona, and then eventually moved on to go to the Institute of American Indian Arts in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where I obtained my bachelor's. So it wasn't until after I graduated from IAIA in 2010 where I think professionally I started becoming more of a serious artist. And so that's pretty much how how I got into art kind of happened. And since then, 2010, I went on to get my master's at U of A School of Art, and then it just kind of snowballed from there, from 2010 once I graduated with my bachelor's. And yeah, it was just kind of, it wasn't really planned. It just kind of all just unfolded as the universe should. So that's how I got into the art game.
Well, I'm going to jump us around a little too, because you're talking about your drawing. One of the things that I think is pretty interesting in looking at your work is that there are these kind of strong geometric designs you've got going on. And then I can see your drawing roots with like kind of these cartoon figures and the two pieces we have in the pivot show at the center, which are so fun and whimsical. So can you kind of talk about where those two sides are coming from?
Yeah. I think, they're both similar, as they both kind of talk about this whole idea of, contemporary and then traditional Native Americans kind of merged all together in one, which is actually kind of similar to the actual pivot meaning. Mm-hmm. But the more geometrical stuff are derived from my ancestrals' designs that they had on pottery or baskets and things like that. And they're all they're all abstract, of course, but I push them to more abstraction, more contemporary abstraction. So I use both, those design work and then merge them with almost graffiti style techniques and graffiti aesthetics. So that's what it causes, that the more geometrical, like real dynamic in color and real straight edge paintings is for those. And then we jump on over to the other side where everything's more like you said, they're more cartoonish. That comes from graffiti as well. Graffiti they have a character. Character is a genre, I guess you would say, inside the graffiti art world, where you make characterizations of things or people. And so that's where that comes from. And I'm going to say this, that I have a lot more fun with the characters than I do with the more geometric stuff, because the more geometric stuff is kind of more, I guess you would say, serious and more, rigid and more, I guess, tight. While the characters are kind of more fun for me, where I don't really know what's going to happen. I kind of could predict what's going to happen with the geometric shapes, but the characters are kind of more fun to develop, where because I'm essentially creating these people or these things that have backstories, and they have a purpose, or they're reflecting issues or stuff going on in my life, or what are going on in the world. So I think those are the kind of the main differences and also similarities of both of those styles of painting and drawing that I pursue.
Yeah, and I have to say both are very dynamic. Like when you're talking about the characters, like, yeah, you're giving full personas, and like it feels like you get a full backstory that maybe lost on the audience, but like you can tell that there's something there. and when I say lost on the audience, just like if people don't know like fully some of the like historical or cultural landscape kind of elements that are part of it. But even your geometric patterns, I think, are really fun for us to see too, because we get to work in a world that sees a lot of the tradition, old, you know, versions of how that kind of geometric design has come about. So seeing how that's, you know, done in your work is like, you know, not just a 2D thing, it feels 3D, you're giving more dimension. And it is a really fun, dynamic way of showing both of those things. So I don't know. I think we had looked at like what, I think the boards that you gave to M&A were the geometric design more, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah,
so.
when we pulled out your, the ones for us, we love them. And I think everybody like has asked about what the prices are because we're like, these are good.
That's funny. Yeah.
And I do think they want to know the backstory too on like Triple XL. Like, whoa, what's going on there?
Oh yeah.
When you've got like the cactus coming out of everyone's ears, and they're just fun, like in motion.
Okay. Yeah. Great.
Again, kind of, you know, going off script. I saw that from some of your old social media posts / maybe now, but you also talk about being a graffiti artist, and I've seen that you've done some murals, which are not necessarily too similar to the graffiti-ish world. Like I'm thinking of the one that you did for a courthouse. So it's interesting too. I'm just basically shout out to if anybody wants to follow your social media pages or look you up on Google. It is so interesting to see the diversity of like where your work has gone. So I guess that's not really a question. That's more of just everybody look at his work because it's so fun.
That's like,
so
well, I think I've had that.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I've had that comment before. People kind of talk about the diversity and kind of I have you know formal training to think for that, going to school and stuff. You know what I mean? Because I know what I like, and I know what I like to paint. I know what I like to draw. I know how I like to paint. And I know how I like to draw. But you know, when you go to school for stuff, you know, you get forced to do stuff that you don't really want to, or you're not really attracted to. But I think it's important that, you know, you get that experience to try everything out. So, you know, going to school, you know, I got to experience sculpture. I got to experience jewelry making, printmaking, you know, all those other kind of stuff that I'm thankful that I got exposed to, because I think it helped inform my work, you know, later on in life, which I think that's important. So that, I think that's why maybe I am more, I guess, diverse, where, you know, I can do cartoon stuff or more realism, or just or the abstraction work. So I think it's important for artists to know that, you know, it's important to be kind of well-rounded with you know, all these art that's going around, because, you know, there's tons of art nowadays, especially with the social media stuff. You're getting exposed to people who do all kinds of crazy stuff, and there's all kinds of talented people out there. So I think it's just good to be well-rounded, you know, not just to be focused on one, you know, singular thing, but to kind of have your hands in a couple of paint buckets, I guess you'd say.
Yeah. We've kind of mentioned this vaguely with some of your inspiration, maybe from like the geometric stuff, and then kind of how we talked about how, you know, Pivot is a mostly contemporary Native American artist show. But what does being a Native American artist mean to you? And does that impact you? Is that something that you identify with? Anything related to that? It's interesting for us to hear.
Okay. I think for me, being a Native American artist, it gives, well, let me give you an example of when I was at school at U of A, School of Art, for my master's degree. You know, I went in there with all these other graduates who were there for making art. So there was probably like, I think 12 other graduate students in my class, and all going in together. And, you know, everybody, you know, I don't know if you guys ever went to graduate school, have any idea what that's like. It's, you know, it's just, you're kind of a fish out of water again. Then you're getting thrown into this higher level of, I guess, art education, studio art education. And so we're all in this together, and everybody was searching for what to paint about, or what to create work about. And a lot of the other students who were, you know, I was only Native American, and everybody else, from their backgrounds, they really didn't know what to talk about in their work or how to approach, figuring out what they're going to do. And so we were all getting pressured to find out what we wanted to make work about. But for me, it came to me faster and easier, just because I think me being Native Americans, we have tons of issues happening. I mean, everybody has issues, but I was kind of focused more on the issues happening in my reservation. So being a Native American artist allowed me to kind of have stuff to talk about when it came to making artwork, and have stuff to express that I felt needed to be talked about. So I think being a Native American artist has that, I guess, upper hand, in my opinion, is that we have a lot of things that we can talk about. And we go into art thinking that we want to change lives, even if it's just one life. That's what I think about when I'm making art. Maybe this artwork will change somebody's life, maybe, even if it's just one person. So with that being said, yeah, that's what Native American art means to me, is that we make art for ourselves, I guess, or our own audience, which is the people like us. And so that's why I guess that's what that kind of just came off my top of my head right now. That.
Yeah, that sense of community, and also this sort of actually leads really well into the last question. I was going to ask about what art means to you now. Like, I think people can maybe relate to some of those pressing issues that Native communities have felt historically for a long time, but now a lot of people are feeling them with the pandemic and social stuff that's going on now. So I was just going to ask you, what does art mean to you in this moment?
Okay, yeah, art. I think it's kind of similar, but what art means to me now is it gives a voice to people who don't really have a voice, or who don't choose to use their physical voice, where they can use their their artistic voice to say something or express something. And I think that's always been important, and it should continue to be important to a lot of artists, because if you're not making work that says something, then I mean, I don't want to, knock down anybody whose work's not saying anything, but I think it's very important for people to say something with their voice if they have one. So I think that's the way I kind of approach it when I make my work, is that, I want to use my voice to say something, which goes back to the whole, Native American artist thing. So yeah, it's expression, I mean, it's very important. And we see a lot of it nowadays with all the social injustice happening, where people are starting to use art to, we see the whole Black Lives Matter painted across the whole street in different cities and things like that. So, that's definitely a form of art, because, they're saying something. It's a form of graffiti. Graffiti people would use large block letters to put their name up to let people know that they're there. You know what I mean? So I think that, it's definitely, they all run parallel with each other. And I think it's very important right now, this time, for people to keep their artistic expression going. But then again, it can also be dangerous too, in my opinion, because you think about the idea of repetition and kind of, like I said, staying in the same spot. I think it's good right now that people voice their opinion and voice their their ideas. Well, but I look forward to seeing where the art goes from here after this, things settle down, which I don't know how long that's going to take. They might keep going forever, for all I know.
Well, I think Pivot has been really good. We've been at the center, we've been very excited to have students and to have the community be able to come in and see it. And people have been able to connect with the messages that all of you artists are putting out there, and bringing their own thoughts and feelings to that. And really, just it's across boundaries. People are able to connect through the artwork. And that's been the case certainly for Pivot and the feedback that we've gotten. So it's pretty amazing. And we're really thankful to have the show and to be able to talk to artists like you right now. It's meant a lot personally to Amy and I, but I think it means a lot to a lot of folks. So
yeah. And like Liz said, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I have a question for you guys. How has the feedback for Pivot? You guys reopened?
I think I got that. You broke up a little on us, but Yeah, we were supposed to open the exhibit in March, and we were able to open in August, in like mid to late August, and the reception has been great. We've had a really good turnout. Um, we've had really, really positive feedback on campus from Fort Lewis students connecting with it and being able to get in the gallery and get out of their dorm room and go do
Yeah.
something that is safe. And the same from the community, just feeling really inspired and connected to the show, and happy to be able to come and take in some culture in this kind of crazy time. And I don't know what you want to add, Amy, because I know you've had lots of great experiences.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the big reasons we wanted to have this on campus was at Fort Lewis was because we're a college campus, and we do have so many, we're a minority majority school, and we have so many Native students and Native students who are also artists. So it's been good for us to do these interviews and to have the gallery open, because we get to show these to our students. Ideally, they're watching these, please guys. And it's cool to hear like so many of the artists say like what you said of looking forward to what art becomes, and like how art will continue to transition. And like I said before, this is new for us, kind of to have an exhibit like Pivot where we're showing such a spectrum of different artists' works. And I don't know if I'm allowed to give a little sneaky preview to what we're doing on campus, but we have something in the works of our students on campus who are inspired by Pivot, who will be doing kind of their own skateboard deck arts as, a kind of mini Pivot show. But the reception's been amazing. So it's been a bummer that we can't have the artists up here to physically do programs with us or talk to students or be there to explain their pieces more, because we can just do a semi-okay job of being like a middle person for like explaining what your art means, but obviously it's nothing compared to what you can say about it. But these interviews have been a blessing for us to be able to get that insight from you, and we've been advertising that along with the show. So feedback's been great, and I think people are really excited to see where this goes next. And from that, we've been able to push out different artists' social media or websites, or just to have our audiences follow the Pivot show, but also each individual artist to get, you guys out there. So I think that's huge for us to be a platform as well. So thanks for asking. If you're ever in the area.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. That's cool though that it inspired you guys to do their own Pivot show, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. Art's meant to inspire, and I think that's where the circle keeps going.
Yeah. So let me do all of my shout outs. Thank you so much for talking to us. It's been lovely to chat. Like Liz said, we haven't done these in a while, so we're kind of rusty, but thanks for being just a joy to chat to. And we're always happy. If you need anything from us, feel free to reach out. It sounds like, you were so responsive in our emails that, we'll let you know what the mini Pivot show is like, and we'll be in touch too. But thanks to everyone who watched or is watching. You can follow Dwayne on Facebook if you want to friend him. He has an Instagram that he's not too active on, but check him out on his Big Cartel at Dwayne Manuel. I might have said that wrong. .bigcartel.com. We'll have that linked so you don't have to follow my voice for that one. You can find out more of what the Pivot exhibit is doing on their Instagram, and more of what we're doing at the center, at the center's Instagram, Facebook, and we're doing YouTube now, obviously. And as always, we want to say thank you to a lot of the people who help support us financially to get Pivot to the Center of Southwest Studies, like the LPEA Roundup Grant, our crowdfunding donors, Richard and Marilyn Valentine, the Colorado Humanities Cares Grant, and the National Endowment for the Humanities. Like we said, as a reminder, Pivot is open now, so if you want to head to our website, our Facebook, or our Instagram, you can book an appointment online, and we are so looking forward to seeing you if you
Make
can
your
get to it.
appointment. Come see Dwayne's work. Come see everybody's work. Yeah. Thank you so
Open
much.
until March.
Yeah. Thank you for talking to us today, Dwayne.
Thank you for having me. It was good.
Yay, thanks.